Hello and welcome YouTubers and Doctor Who fanatics to another video on December scheduling 2016. This is the second video of December scheduling and the first one for TJ Productions. So we're starting off with section 1, which is called Childhood and Classics of Doctor Who. This video is called Doctor Who, My Childhood Stories. So I'm going to go right to the past of where Doctor Who began for me when I first experienced Doctor Who and what are my memories of it way back when. First time I actually experienced Doctor Who was Christmas Day 1999, and this is the first thing I remember of Doctor Who. These are a big part of my childhood. These are these VHSs. I have more VHSs. These were the only ones I remember watching from Christmas Day 1999 and onwards throughout the years. I remember these stories, but nothing else which I have on VHS. And again, these VHSs, they don't belong to me. They're my dad's, but he gave them to me, which is very nice. And yet, these were marathons, they were. And this was the order: Horror Fan Rock, Revenge of the Cybermen, The Ark in Space, The Pyramids of Mars, and Image of the Fendar. Those 5 were my first Doctor Who stories. I remember little bits of these stories way back when at 1999, but a little bit more older. I definitely remember watching them, and the one I remembered the most, because it was in fact my first Doctor Who story, and it's become one of my favourite Doctor Who stories of all time, because I think it's really the one that got me into Doctor Who, and I have so much nostalgia for it, and it got me into horror Fan Rock. Horror Fan Rock has been such a special story for me, and yes, I am going to be reviewing it in December, scheduling it as a classic review, because it very much deserves it. I do remember many moments of the story when I was young, and it personally for me, it has my favourite Doctor Who line of all time in this story, where the 4th Doctor goes, "This lighthouse is under attack, and by morning we might all be dead," and then does the brilliant grin at the end of that sentence. The atmosphere was fantastic. The Rutan never scared me because of its appearance, just a green hovering ball. It never scared me. A part of this story did though, but it wasn't the actual appearance of the Rutan. It was this character by here. Of course, Rutans are shapeshifters, and the Rutan was shapeshifting as that character, and his creepy eyes, his creepy smile, that got to me. Yeah, Horror Fan Rock is such a special story to me. It will always remain as the story with the most nostalgia for me. Absolutely love it. It's definitely in my top 10, and I will treasure it forever. Season 12 is definitely childhood written all over it is, because I experienced Ark in Space, Genesis of the Daleks, and Revenge of the Cybermen at a young age. Not Robot or the Sontaran Experiment, but those 3 stories I definitely experienced at a young age. And the second one was Revenge of the Cybermen. At the time, the only parts that I remembered from this story was Nova itself and the Cybermen were attempting to kill the Doctor. That scene. I remember that the TV was like having something wrong when watching this episode. It got really static and difficult to watch. Nova is something within my head when it comes to childhood, because I watched Revenge and the Ark in Space. Part 1 is the only part where it really sticks in my mind, like the Planet of Gold and that part. I didn't remember any of that. I don't remember the Cyber Map. That's something which doesn't come into play. In my mind it doesn't. I remember the Cybermen. I remember Nova. The other one was the Ark in Space for the next Doctor Who story. This is actually one of the stories which actually scared me. This is why I love the Wirren. They don't need to look good, they can look cheap. They still scared me, and they were still very effective. Nova is definitely something strong. within my childhood because not a lot of people like Revenge. I personally have a soft spot for it because it was my second Doctor Who story. I don't think I fully completed it because I don't remember it. I remember part 1, but that was about it because the VHS, there's something going wrong with it, there was. But it was nice to return to it and watch the DVD for the first time. Memories definitely hit my head, but not the rest of the story. The Ark in Space, you know, this one definitely got me, it did when I was a kid. I mean, a lot of people with childhood stories, I do see Nerva come up quite a lot. The Ark in Space seems to be a very common story when it comes to childhood stories because, well, it's the start of the Philip Hinchcliffe era. And as well, one of the most popular Doctor Who stories of all time, so it was shown on the TV a lot, it was, so people might have watched it on TV when they were young, loved it a lot, maybe got scared. And yeah, since the Wirren were like the second monster to actually scare me, they stay in my book, they do. It's a good old childhood story, full of nostalgia. The next is Pyramids of Mars, and I remember a lot about this one. The thing I remember the most about the Pyramids of Mars was, in fact, the robot mummies. Scarman was another one of those characters that I found pretty creepy when I was young. And yeah, David Garfield, which I think that's his name, one of the greatest actors, I would say. He plays a villain so well, one of the greatest actors to play a villain, along with Kevin Stoney. I find him a magnificent villain. And he's just a side villain as well. He's great. I remember him the most. Sutek, to me, is a little bit of a haze. Again, it was ages ago, but I do remember part 4 a lot. And not a lot of people like part 4, but I think I enjoyed part 4 a lot, I did. And still now I enjoy part 4. I enjoy it because of nostalgia. And for the final VHS, it's Image of the Fendal. I've watched this one a few times. Apparently I watched this one when I was young, but don't remember anything about it. I was just told that this one was definitely one. Just didn't hit my head. But I remember watching it after that, like a few years after. And this is something that definitely got me into the Hammer horror. Because my dad was talking about Hammer horror. And I just sit down and watched it, and it reminded me a lot like this. Yeah, Horror Fan Rock and Image of the Fandal. Definitely the two stories which got me into horror. So this one again is a very special story to me, and it's underrated. Yeah, as I said, apparently I definitely watched this one, but I can't remember it. I can't remember what I thought about it. Was I scared? Was I just trying to avoid it because it was sort of freaking me out, so I didn't look at it? It really doesn't ring a bell. So yeah, these here are my childhood stories. Horror Fan Rock, Revenge of the Cybermen, The Ark in Space, The Pyramids of Mars, and Image of the Fandal. They're all 4th Doctor stories because, for my mum and my dad, the 4th Doctor was their favourite. And my first experiences with Doctor Who was with the 4th Doctor. There's been some other stories like after that a little bit, like in 2003 or 4, 2002, like Earthshock. I remember part 1 of that so much, I do. Don't remember the rest of it. I only think I watched part 1, and I think it appeared on the TV as well. I remember the creepy caves I did with those androids, and I remember the cliffhanger as well. That's a story I really do remember a lot. Planet of the Daleks I remember a little bit, and Genesis of the Daleks. So yes, I hope you enjoyed this video of me showcasing my childhood Doctor Who stories. What is your childhood Doctor Who stories? Place them in the comments down below. So yes, I will see you in the next December scheduling 2016 video. The next video is the top 10 items in my collection. So stay tuned for that. That'll be out Tuesday. So thanks for watching, and of course, have a good one.